Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good to be back amongst the ignited minds. And as I mentioned yesterday, that I'll be back with you. And yesterday, of course, I was standing between you and the lunch, and today is not that situation. So, on that happy note, ladies and gentlemen, let me just start by a little recap of the Indian Army. What does Indian Army stand for? We stand for an ethical conduct as far as uniting the country is concerned, the unity and the brotherhood. As far as brotherhood is concerned, I have a favorite quote which I must share with you. And here it goes. We happy few, we, the band of brothers in arms, for those who sweat and bleed with me shall be my brothers. So, ladies and gentlemen, Indian Army is there with the ethos of nation first. Addressing today's subject of CSR, I'll straight away come to the ethos, the vision. What is it that Indian Army has as far as our vision is concerned? And I mentioned yesterday to some of you who were here, we are looking at the Army headquarters providing a strategic vision and a strategic direction to our welfare initiatives. So the core committee of CSR is at the Army headquarters under the Adjutant General, who is the principal staff officer to the Chief of Indian Army, and I work alongside him, and I'm also a member of this committee, as was brought out by a young lady here. In the CSR, what is it that we are looking at? What is our vision? What does a vision require? We aspire that we take care of all our soldiers, right from their inception into the Army, their recruitment into the Army, till they really fade away. So with that thought, our mission, each vision must have a mission, so our mission is to look after the welfare of these body of uniformed people from the womb to the tomb. What do we need to sustain that mission? I think we need passion to sustain that mission. So in the Indian Army, ladies and gentlemen, trust me when I say that there is no dearth of intent, intensity, integrity, or intellect. So we have the requisite passion to sustain this mission. Let me step for a moment towards your side. What is it we believe that you all have as the young corporate leaders? I think you all have a mind's eye, implying thereby an ability to be able to see the things before others can see it, a mind's eye. And when it comes to CSR, it's our conviction that you all understand the logos, the pathos, and the ethos of CSR. What do I mean by that? Logos, logic of what needs to be done. What is it that the society needs? You've identified that. You're working towards that. Pathos, passion to sustain it. I mentioned about passion. Ethos, the execution modalities to accomplish that. So therefore, what is the ethos that we've seen corporates to come up with? Ethical conduct. I think a century before this term CSR was coined, we've seen Tatas actually leading the way as far as the ethical conduct is concerned. And then so many of you followed suit. We've also seen companies like Johnson & Johnson. I'm just giving these names because these are the names that got embedded in our in our minds when we were very young, schoolboys. So may I quote an example as far as Johnson's & Johnson is concerned? And we all know Johnson's were into baby products. So their bottles, milk bottles, was a big hit across the world. We all understand that. And the medical science told us that actually breastfeed is the best for a young toddler and infant. And here is Johnson & Johnson, they stopped the production of milk bottles to encourage the breastfeeds. To my mind, that is ethical conduct. So therefore, while we have the vision, the mission and the passion to do something for our boys, I think you all have the logos, the pathos, and the ethos of how to do it. So that is where I feel there is some sort of convergence that takes place. So what I'm going to do is run through some of the slides that I have curated for this talk, and then probably be available to you for any questions, answers, and where you all could partner with the Indian Army, or Indian Army could come to projecting all that you're doing for the society. I'm also informed by my colleagues and my team that we're going to be here for an hour, hour and a half more after this talk in one of the co-meeting rooms, I think number 2 or number 3. So therefore, if any of you would like to interact and have any conversation with us, we're very much here. We are also looking at asking one of my colleagues, the Managing Director of Army Welfare Placement Organization. Yesterday's interaction tells me that there are a whole lot of you who had questions about the skills, skill development, skill training, entrepreneurship, etc., and therefore, who do they contact? So we got the gentleman here to meet up with you. So that can happen after the talk. So let me just run through the slides, and then I'll take on the questions that you may have. So Adjutant General's branch, already mentioned by our MC here, and we are looking at the corporates coming forward and partnering with the welfare projects that we have ordained and orchestrated for ourselves. We also have the ability to give you all the documentation that any of the corporates may require once they partner with the Army as far as their CSR documentation is concerned. So we have a CSR account, we have a CSR number, and rest assured, all the utilization, etc., is available with us. The fields, the spheres where we're looking at our CSR projects, our welfare projects, joined in by the corporates for the CSR. The field of education, welfare, for the medical issues, for the veterans, and of course, for the families of our fallen heroes. We have a standing strength of about 12 lakh. We are huge, ladies and gentlemen. We have a pan-India presence. You can go to any geographic corner of the country and find some army man there. And we draw strength, our manpower from all areas, and about 65 to 70% of them come from the rural areas. And I link it with the later part of my talk. Why am I bringing it out to you? So in a nutshell, the organogram of how we are structured: Chief of Army Staff, below him the Adjutant General, along with other principal staff officers, and with him is the Director General, Discipline, Ceremonials, and Welfare, and this is where, in yellow, where I figure in. So the ceremonial vertical, the welfare vertical, and the Army Welfare Placement Organization, these verticals fall in my charter. So the MD, AWPO, he works with me, and ex officio, I'm also the honorary chairman of Army Welfare Placement Organization. So we're looking at CSR and welfare matters. We look at the ASHA schools for the differently abled children. I'll come to the details in a little while. We have military hospitals, 113 of them. We have 7 palliative care centers across the country, a directorate which looks after the welfare of Indian Army veterans, and of course we have numerous Army public schools, 136 of them, and we have 250 Army pre-primary schools which become feeder to those Army public schools. So here are the figures and the map showing you the pan-India presence of our geographical regional commands under the Army headquarters. 37 ASHA schools, 2 paraplegic rehabilitation centers, 7 palliative care centers, I covered that. We have 12 specialized colleges. Each of them is doing well and getting excellent placements. Queen Mary Technical Institute, vocational training to empower people to stand on their own feet. We have an artificial limb center, spinal cord injury center, and an old age or an assisted living home. So this is the summary of what we have to try and cover some of the other details. May I just take a minute to elaborate on this early intervention centers? I touched upon it yesterday in passing, I would say. This is a new concept. 5 of our centers were started this year, and therefore, what do? From the time the child is born, 0 age to 6 years, we actually utilize the contemporary medical equipment to identify if there is any deformity or a disability or anything which can manifest in years to come, and therefore try and intervene to ensure that the treatment for that is neither prolonged nor denied to the child. So it's more than a timely intervention we're looking at. We have 5 of them which commenced functioning this year. There is a Center of Excellence for Early Intervention which we're looking at Delhi in the Army Hospital Research and Referral here in Delhi, Cant, and we're looking at 10 more centers to come up. ASHA schools, I covered it again passing yesterday. As we speak, a strength of 1,285 children, 580 of them from the civil society and civil fraternity. Just to highlight to you that these schools are open to the civil fraternity. There are no admissions being denied. They charge very nominal fees. They have special educators. They have the various types of therapists that we may need, whether it's physiotherapy or speech therapy or anything, or hydrotherapy, anything that we require. So these are the schools all over the country. I mentioned about Army public schools and APPSs. All I want to highlight more and highlight further in this is that after the National Education Policy 2020, we are in the process of aligning these schools with the NEP, and therefore are in the process of now bringing up the infrastructure that's required to align them, whatever labs are required, those software labs, utter tinkering labs, and all the vocational training and vocational skilling labs. So all that is happening right now. Palliative care centers, each of them have a capacity of 15 to 16 people. These are the terminally ill patients, either the uniformed people or their dependents. And we're looking at taking care of them and making sure that while the time will take its toll, but they don't die before the death really comes. So that's the effort here. So this is largely what I have already covered with you, what all is covered in the ambit of our welfare projects. I'll highlight 1 or 2 fresh points on this. So we look at free residential coaching, preparation of students for IIT and for NEET and JEE exams. We have 3 centers functional. 1 was started last year at Pune. Very happy to share with you, 43 students, all 43 have cleared NEET. This is all being done by the assistance of corporates. We started with 2 more centers this year, Sukhna in the northeast and Beas near Jalandhar. We have identified 10 more locations for these centers to come up. Here, a child comes and pays nothing. Of course, the child has to clear a little screening test and be above that datum line or that benchmark, and we tutor him professionally for 1 year. Now, there are those 12 standards or 12 standard dropouts, and we prepare them and then they get admission. I'm sure that out of these 43 who've cleared the exam, 70-75% of them will get converted into actual admissions. The Directorate of Indian Army Veterans, which is an adjunct to my directorate, they have special schemes. For example, we've lost a member of the family, a soldier. We give financial assistance for the marriage of the daughter. If he's an amputee, he got injured in battle, we give him money to make a specialized washroom in his house. We provide finances for giving him the mobility equipment, those tri-scooters or wheelchairs, etc. And we keep doing it till such time he needs it. So therefore, that is the other aspect of the welfare that we have. Some of the pictures on the next few slides. The Paraplegic Rehab Center at Mohali and Kirki near Pune. So we in the process of creating sports nodes there, the Paralympics, and we're winning medals for the country in them. Spinal cord injury center. So the sports that people can indulge in and have a more active and more inspiring life. Pune with a capacity of almost 850. Artificial limb center, state-of-the-art prosthetics. All this requires very stable and consistent funding. And that is how I interact with the large corporates who are mandated by way of CSR to deploy 2% of their profits in some welfare-related activities, and the welfare of armed forces personnel is covered in Schedule 7. So that's how large corporates come and join hands with us. They partner with us. I mentioned about the palliative care centers, the terminally ill patients. Asha schools. So what is the underlying thought here? We asked ourselves this question: can training and education put in what God and nature omitted? To our minds, the answer was yes. So we got onto this training and mainstreaming of differently abled children. And we're making sure that whatever may it cost, we will continue to run these, gear them up to stand on their feet, and also, God willing, in a few years, join the mainstream students' lobby with the rest of them. So all the amenities that they'll require, all the specialized equipment that they require, we try and provide them in the schools. Free residential coaching. I mentioned that, but once again, what was the underlying thought? These children are bright. They were looking at opportunities. Sometimes the handicap was money. But then these are the children who have the potential. So there was a need to allow them and give them this opportunity. And if I may quote a dialogue from a Hollywood movie, we believe, why should you just fit in if you're born to stand out? That's what we're trying to inspire them to do. Early intervention centers, I have covered that part. This is just a pictorial to show you this is the kind of things that we are doing here. Education facilitation, while I have covered some part about the APS, APPSs, Army pre-primary schools, etc. Let me quote something which my father told me when I was 5 years of age. It kind of stayed with me. Better unborn than untaught. Better untaught than ill-taught. So we're trying to teach them right. So that is how our own schools are premised at. It is our belief that when the mind expands to larger things in life, it rarely ever comes back to its original size. So therefore, all our education initiatives are towards expansion of that mind. Just a mention about this website and the fund that is associated with it. Ladies and gentlemen, I mentioned briefly yesterday that on an average every year, we lose about 120 to 130 people in active military operations in the line of duty. Some of them get grievously injured. There is this fund that was started in 2016. It's called the Armed Forces Battle Casualties Welfare Fund. Initially, it was Army only, Army Battle Casualties Welfare Fund. 2020, we made it into a tri-service fund. So the Navy and Air Force also co-opted in this. So therefore, in this fund, we found that the present disposition at the central government level, they enhanced the financial outgoes from this fund. This fund is utilized only and purely as an ex gratia, an immediate financial relief to those who sacrifice themselves in the line of duty. So this amount used to be 2 lakh rupees whenever even a news of such demise came up, and our present disposition increased it fourfolds and made it 8 lakhs. So our fund started to dry up, and with the intervention of the Honorable Defense Minister, my directorate became a little proactively engaged in this, and we had this web portal launch on 14th of October last month. And happy to share with you, Mr. Amitabh Bachchan is our goodwill ambassador for this fund. He's very graciously accepted. And in the week, as a run-up to the launch of this web portal, the corporates and the large banks had already put in 25 crore rupees in that. So this is where the corporates are chipping in, and we have the provision of your CSR coming into this fund and thereafter being transferred into the battle casualty fund from where these ex gratias are being paid. So therefore, this is over and above anything else that the government is doing. And let me share that today the central governments and the state governments are doing actually adequate, but it is just for that immediate grant to meet immediate expenditure, something on the mind of the family who've lost a formidable earning member. So this is for them. Now this is the other part about this fund I can share is that we requested the Honorable Defense Minister to write to the Finance Minister to give us an IT exemption so that even our spirited citizens, whoever wants to contribute anything, big, small, can put into this fund at the click of a button when they go onto this website. And if it's a large amount that kind of implores you to seek a tax benefit or income tax exemption for that, we're working on that. By the time this financial year ends, we shall have it with us. So this is what I mentioned. We figure in Schedule 7 of this Ministry of Corporate Affairs notification, and we are geared up to help you out, help all the corporates with any documentation that you may have. A glimpse of our current CSR partners, some of them coming in a big way. A big chunk of the money that we got into our account for this Maa Bharti Ke Sapoot came actually from ICICI and SBI. There are also some individuals, including Mr. Amitabh Bachchan himself, who was the first person to put his own money into this account. So this is the CSR contribution. I'm only listing out some of the very recent ones and the regular ones who are doing it year after year. And it's more there on the view for ladies and gentlemen as a token of our appreciation for these corporates. So when we look at the options for the corporates to come up and join hands with the Army, what are the spheres we're looking at? I covered that earlier in passing. Education, health, wellness, skilling, employment, entrepreneurship. So this is what we're looking at, and the fields are all in front of you. So when it comes to our welfare projects, we are quite like you all. And I know that good corporate leaders walk with a sense of purpose. They walk with a compass and a clock. A compass for the precision in their vision and a clock for its timely execution. So we are quite like you when it comes to the accomplishment of our welfare projects. So what are our aspirations from the corporates when it comes to partnering with the Army and joining hands with us? We're looking at the sustenance and longevity of our projects. I mentioned yesterday to those of you who were there that what we won't want is to start a welfare project today and wind it up tomorrow. So therefore, the corporates come in with their stout financial hand-holding, and the projects continue, the projects remain. So whether it is free coaching, whether it is the palliative care centers or the ASHA schools, a large part of this is now being driven by the larger corporates. How do we go about? What is the start point? So conceptually, we have two thought processes. We have our own projects, and the corporates either come and join hands and commit and deploy funds for its sustenance, or the corporates could recommend a new project all by themselves, and we help them start it, sustain it, and run it. So these are the two conceptual operative parts of how we partner with the Army. So therefore, the corporates come up with an expression of interest. What is it that they're keen on? What is it that's reflective of their own ethics and ethos? We discussed ethics and ethos earlier. So therefore, whatever resonates with their thought process, the thoughts that they have in mind to do for the society or the Army. So once that expression of interest is received, we get into a memorandum of understanding with them, which lays out on paper, the thought processes that the corporates may have. So that is how we go about, and I have mentioned that we are geared up as far as the CSR accounts and numbers are concerned. All our welfare schemes have one single thought, and that thought is of a few I's. I as in inform, include, involve, indulge, instruct, inspire. So that is the underlying theme of all our welfare projects. Try and include everybody and give an inspirational living to everybody. So through the organizers here, CSR Box, and I have been interacting with Mr. Bhaumik Shah, we leave these thoughts with you that any of the larger corporates, I'm sure this is a mix of the startups, the mid-level and the larger corporates. So any of the larger corporates, we're leaving these thoughts with the organizers that they can come meet up with us, and wherever they feel that it is feasible for us to explore avenues of jointsmanship, wherever we can put our hands and our heads together to do something worthwhile for the armed forces, we'll always be there to be the enablers for those thought processes. So ladies and gentlemen, this is where I shall step aside, and as I said, we will be, and my team will be available in this co-meeting room number 3, I think, and we'll be here for some more time. If any of the corporate leaders amongst you or a startup leader amongst you who feel that they have something in their mind to do for the Army, take it to cantonments, or something where the Army can help them project all the good work that you're doing and take it further to various parts of the country, we'll be extremely happy to be those catalysts. So I leave this thought with you. If there's any immediate question, I'll take it on. Otherwise, my team will be available to to you for any discussions and parleys hereafter. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen.